Are you going, Alex? Yeah. Does this project me to?
Yeah.
This doesn't make me louder to them, does it?
No.
It's just.
So I'd like to. Bloody hell, that's shining bright. I'd like to thank everyone for coming tonight. I'm Alex, one of the CrossFit coaches at CrossFit Humber and one of the co-owners of CrossFit Brough. Know quite a lot here, but not everyone. I know it's a bit weird seeing a bloke stood at the front talking about female health and menopause, and it is. Well, no, it's not anymore. So this actually come from one of the members here. We were having a chat in the gym once, and it was kind of like, how you doing, how's things? And she said, well, better now. So then got into it a little bit, and after the chat, it was pretty much what you guys are doing is actually helping loads in how I'm feeling now and everything like that. So coming off the back of that was like, nice one, I can advertise this, get loads of members. Went away and I thought, well, what are we doing for menopause? I realised I have absolutely no idea about the menopause. I've got no information about it, and I didn't know how we were making it better. So went away, tiny bit of research, and the only thing I really come up with was I'm really confused. The information out there, you'll read something, and then the next thing you'll read says the very opposite. Supplements, not supplements. You've got to be this age to start the menopause. You have to be this age. It blew my mind, so I kind of thought I want to learn a little bit more. And luckily enough, I've got loads of good people around me who started this information. George did some stuff at the Spire. Jules has done loads of stuff off the back, and me and Liam have dived into us, learn as much as we can in such a short time. So we will be learning a lot tonight with you. The idea is that these people are subject matter experts in their field. A lot of the stuff will cross over because it all interacts. But if you take anything away from it, all I want you to do is ask questions, and absolutely anything you've got. I work with a lot of people here, and when I say there's no stupid questions, we've heard most of them. So if anyone asks something, don't ever think, oh, this will be stupid. Just get it off your chest now. Also, off the back of this, if anyone wants any of the presentations or any more information, if you give me a shout on social media or on the events page, I can get all the stuff sent over to you one by one. So last thing, if anyone's got any questions, if you're anything like me, ask them straight away when they come in your head. There's nothing worse than thinking I'll ask that at the end and then forgetting what it is. So just chuck your hand up and they'll hopefully address the questions. If we can't answer your questions, we will get them to you after this. We'll find out and get the answers. Everyone happy? I will pass you over to George, who will introduce herself and then go through her slides.
Hello, my name's George. I am currently a outpatient physio at Spire Hospital, mixed between orthopaedics and your kind of private paying patients. See a lot of MSK patients and a lot of women that are possibly perimenopause, menopause, that are starting to experience joint aches, tendinopathies, musculoskeletal pains that they might not associate with hormonal changes. So my part tonight, I'm going to touch a bit on why some things are quite common in that stage of life. I'll try not to do death by PowerPoint. It is, like Alex said, it's going to be a bit more of a Q&A. I'll sort of try and be a bit more interactive with you while I'm doing my bit. So like Alex said, if you've got any questions, please stick your hand up. Bit about my personal background. I started CrossFit many moons ago at the very original gym. Anna and Liam were both members there as well. Did it for a long time, was fully into it, loved it to pieces. Then because my children had to kind of back off a little bit, and then went back probably about 18 months ago. I only do 2 days a week at Humber. I like the bit of a balance, I think probably because I'm at this stage of my life, and I will talk to you a little bit about overload and variation. Well, the training's going to come from Liam, but personally, I like that social contact, that interaction. I love the gym, it's great, but I know that I've had injuries and I just need to kind of rein it back a little bit, because you can get drawn into that temptation of overtraining in whatever kind of field you're in. So I'll go into these slides first. Okay, sorry, bit of a delay. Like I say, I'll try not to be death by PowerPoint. I'm taking it that most of you are perimenopausal, menopausal, maybe some kind of just here. Sorry, post. Yeah, yeah. So there is bits that are relative to that as well. A little bit about bone health, but I'm taking it that you're all members of one of the 3 gyms. Is that correct? Yeah, yeah. Or everybody's active. Yeah, okay. Does everybody do resistance training? Yeah, okay. Um, regards sort of menopausal symptoms, are any of you sort of experiencing anything that you kind of musculoskeletal wise that you might think might be due to your hormonal changes? Yeah, okay, all right. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of the time it can get passed off as just aging. You might see your GP about it. So hopefully some of this is kind of will help you. You can understand it a little bit better and some tips about kind of what things you can do. And we're always kind of me myself. A lot of this has been self-taught, and also, like I say, I'm kind of coming to that stage where I'm having changes myself, so it becomes a lot more relative, I think. Um, so I'll go a little bit into the science, and then we'll talk about particular pathologies. I'll just have a look at them. So I'm sure you're all aware it's a significant transition in a woman's life, which is accompanied by profound physiological changes due to the decline in sex hormones, particularly estrogens. Um, it marks the cessation of ovarian function and is defined as 12 consecutive months without a period. Now, it typically occurs between the ages of 45 and 55, but that can vary greatly. Some women can start experiencing symptoms late 30s. That might even be corrected there. It could be even before then. But it might be that you just pass it off as different things. It can also obviously be brought on by particular surgeries, hysterectomy, and types of cancer. Okay. Um, when I read some of the statistics, it was quite frightening because we can spend about a third of our lives in various stages of menopause, which is actually quite depressing, really. So yeah, an interesting fact there. Like I say, the musculoskeletal symptoms are possibly quite under discussed. We think about hot flushes, we think about brain fog, a lot of things that might not be kind of associated with your drop in sex hormones, your tendons changing, your bone health deterioration. I mean, obviously, like I said, that is, you might be a bit more aware of the bone changes that can occur and lead into kind of post menopause, your risks of osteopenia, osteoporosis, and the importance, which you'll have read in the media, about weight bearing exercise. A lot of it, and it may be that kind of we're talking to the wrong cohort now. It would have been nice if there would have been some of the younger members as well to really get stuff banked in your 20s and 30s. I feel very lucky that I found CrossFit at that stage, and it's great to see young girls in gyms lifting weight at kind of in their 20s, and hopefully that's going to help them when they hit kind of perimenopause. Um, sorry, plus one there. So up to 70% of women actually report musculoskeletal pain, um, things like joint stiffness, widespread aches, tendon and back pain. Um, these symptoms can be very persistent, debilitating and misunderstood. Like I say, GPs might just pass it off, just told to kind of, it's an aging thing, get on with it. It highlights that we need to, as clinicians, really need to be more educated about it and help women and help them do more for themselves, really. So for particular kind of issues, I'm just going to touch on bone health and hormones, a little bit on muscle health, and a little bit on tendon and joint pain with hormones. So regarding a little bit of kind of infographic there, your muscle health. So estrogen actually helps to maintain the bone mineral density. What it does is it regulates the process of bone remodeling. And when your estrogen starts to drop, it actually favours resorption over the formation, so you lose your net bone loss, which is why you start to get changes. It may be that you know people that are what's called osteopenic, and then that can lead to osteoporosis. You're then at risk of fragility falls. Balance is a big thing as we get a bit older. The two main reasons people fall is reduction in quad strength and balance. It's not something that I see patients every day. Balance deteriorates as we age, and it really does help to kind of involve some of that in your training as well. Thinking about muscle health and hormones, so sarcopenia, which is the drop in muscles as we get older, that just happens as an aging process. I listened to quite a good podcast quite recently, and she looks at it from a neurological point of view, that sarcopenia can actually be due to the changes, the ages in the neuromuscular system, that the muscles aren't as innervated. So it's not just purely down to the estrogen, but estrogen does have a big effect. And the drop in estrogen and androgens actually, the presence, of estrogens and androgens helps with muscle mass and contractibility. So those hormones being there helps you build up that muscle. And like I say, I think it's really important to get across to younger women that really get it built up in your 30s, 20s, 30s. So you've got that banked, you've got it in the bank for when you start to waste away, really. The tendon, so interestingly, and I don't know how you all feel about collagen. I don't know if Juliet's going to touch on collagen. It is a bit of a controversial subject. I am currently taking it. I've looked in and out of it. Whether I will continue to take it, I question whether or not any of it is absorbed. Regards to kind of me taking a supplement, does my stomach acid kill it off? I'm sure you've probably all got your own questions that you might want to ask. I unfortunately am probably not the best person to answer those questions, but as regards to the effect on tendons, the decrease in estrogen and testosterone. Sorry, that's to do with the muscle bit. Sorry. So the estrogen, it helps to modulate the collagen synthesis, which is to do with the tendon elasticity, its healing capacity, and load absorption. I'll talk a little bit about the tendinopathy, but a lot of tendon issues come from overload. So yes, there's the drop in estrogen, which affects the tensile strength and collagen turnover of the tendon. We then, and I don't know if a lot of you are new to CrossFit and you're really enjoying it, the overload, if you're training a hell of a lot, and I'm sure Liam might talk about overtraining, that's when you can start to get tendon issues. 9 times out of 10, the people that I see that are struggling with tendons, there's been some sort of overload, whether it be acutely or kind of over a period of time. So it's very important to kind of make sure that you're not overloading. All right. So as regards to particular pathologies, and I don't know if any of these will relate to any of you, common ones that I definitely see in practice, some of you may have experienced them yourselves or certainly heard about them. Frozen shoulder, what's called GTPS, so greater trochanter pain syndrome. It used to be labelled trochanteric bursitis, but what you find is a lot of it is down to the glute med tendon. Plantar fasciitis and Achilles. I don't know if any of you are runners. You might find that or some of you may have struggled with your Achilles or your plantar fascia. So why are these more common? Frozen shoulder. So the frozen shoulder is actually an inflammatory condition in which fibrous tissue develops around the shoulder joint, which causes pain, stiffness, and reduced mobility. It's very closely linked to inflammation, which is hence why it's very common in diabetics. Signs that you would find: sharp pain at night, which disturbs the sleep. You might have difficulty reaching behind, like fastening your bra or bringing your seatbelt across. Overhead tasks. Stiffness when you're getting dressed or brushing your hair. what they've found is, because I see a lot of women and they present insidious onset, no trauma, quite acute, really sore shoulder, and that I always questioned why if you're ruling out, it's very common in your diabetics, menopausal women. Why is it more common in menopausal women, and why in the shoulder? And what it's actually down to is the estrogen receptors that are in the synovium of the shoulder. There's a lot of estrogen receptors, so that drop in estrogen and that increase in inflammation, it actually increases fibroblasts, which then lead to the capsulitis. It's a really nasty. I don't know if any of you have experienced it. It's really not nice at all. If you start to, what I would say to you is, if you notice signs like this, the best way, and it's a controversial topic again, get in touch with somebody, physio. GPs might not be as forward, but get it injected, in my opinion. If you can get a cortisone injection within the first 3 months, you can kind of accelerate how long it takes to go through its process. Will most of the time, if left to its own devices, run its cycle, but it can take anything 18 months to 2 years. We see a few post-surgically that have had mobilisation under anaesthetic or kind of a shoulder release. They do a lot more commonly now, but you don't really want to get to that stage, to be honest. So yeah, always get it checked out. Thinking about greater trans pain syndrome, any of you experience any lateral hip pain or any hip issues? Yeah, okay. So very typically, like I say, it was known as trochanteric bursitis, refers to pain and tenderness around the lateral side of the hip. That also could be early signs of arthritis in the hip. Early onset hip arthritis, very common in very active women. But yeah, again, always get it checked out. Again, it's associated with that increase in inflammation and can be due to the degenerative change of the tendons. Tendinopathy, a lady called Jill Cook, Australian physio, she came up with what was called the tendon continuum to talk about how a tendon goes through cycles. Your tendinopathy that you might see in a very young athlete, overload, it can be quite easily settled if you offload them. A lot of kind of youngsters into your early 20s. If you don't offload those, you can then go into what's called the sorry, what's going out of my head. The tendon starts to break down. That's when the damage starts to really occur. Then you get into your later stages of degenerative tendinopathy. What can then happen is, and the majority of us will have degenerative change in tendons. It's just part and parcel of getting old, unfortunately. But you can, if you do something overloaded, you go and do, for example, Murph, and you do a load of overhead activity, things that might aggravate your cuff, you overload it, you then get a reactive tendinopathy on top of the degenerative. So it can get quite tricky to settle down. A lot of the population will have rotator cuff tears. It's just, like I say, it's part and parcel, doesn't mean it's symptomatic. It's amazing how much things settle down if you just pull back slightly. In relation to the hip, like I say, it's felt over the lateral aspect of the hip. Things that can aggravate it, climbing stairs, if you sit for long periods. So if you've got desk jobs, you might find that it can aggravate it, and lying on it at bedtime. Because of the estrogen drop, it can affect the tendon health, again related to the collagen production. What can we do? Strength training, definitely. Depends how you feel about collagen supplements. And the big one, avoiding overuse. The strength training, the other thing is, as regards to what I practice, we're getting some really good results from shockwave therapy. I don't know if any of you have come across it or had it for tendinopathies. really good for the GTPS. Also good, getting some really good results from Achilles, plantar fascia. If you want any more details about that, I can always chat to you about it. Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah, good. Yeah, 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 yeah. It's really debilitating. It can be really nasty. Um, it's horses for courses as well. I mean, I don't know if your GP talked to you about cortisone injection. I used to do injections for it. Can be quite effective. Um, it's an anti-inflammatory. You can then get in there. It's always, I would sell it as it's a window of opportunity to get in. You find what happens also during menopause, fat starts to infiltrate the muscle, so you then put more kind of you load the tendon more. So it's very important again for your basic strength work, um, the, your activation stuff, your isolation stuff. I don't want to go into too much because I know that Liam's going to be talking to you about the resistance training part. But yeah, your injection is your anti-inflammatory. Shockwave is pro-inflammatory, so it almost re-kickstarts that acute process. It works on breaking down any calcific deposits in the tendon. Um, Acupuncture, if it helps, I've just redone my acupuncture. Yeah, I don't know if he's done any she has done any dry needling with you. Yeah, it can be really, yeah, it can work really, really nicely. And there's obviously it's based off Eastern medicine, but it's tapping into channels of energy. There's lots of different thoughts as to how it works. But if it helps you, and then hopefully you can then start building up again. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah. You don't want to be medicating it, do you? You want to look at helping to manage it, and then giving you the tools to kind of be able to go forward. And it's difficult because it might not be. It's not a sign that you've not trained, that you're not got the muscle strength there. This explains why it could be changing. So it's just to help kind of facilitate and for you to be able to manage it really. Um, but yeah, we're getting some great results from Shockwave. It's obviously a lot less invasive than your cortisone injections. Um, Plantar fasciitis, you might have, some of you experienced it. I've had it. It's not nice. Uh, it's yeah, it's a common form of heel pain resulting from inflammation of the plantar fascia. Plantar fascia isn't a contractile structure. It's a fascia at the base of the foot, but the tendon inserts into the heel, and it can be really sore. You commonly find it, obviously, if you've done a lot of walking, running. So it might be that you're training for something particular. It can be quite debilitating, particularly if you've got a race or something coming up. You've signed up to something and you're panicking about it. Signs and symptoms: inflamed plantar fascia can hurt when you put pressure on the foot while you're walking. It doesn't necessarily just stick in your heel. It can be sort of along the rest of the fascia, but very, very commonly centre of the heel. During menopause, women experience significant hormonal fluctuations, again down to that decrease in estrogen, and it's a crucial role in maintaining the health of connective tissues, which includes fascia, um, all down to kind of this kind of inflammation. I don't know if any of the other guys are touching on increased inflammation, which we experience. Weight management can be a big one. Good footwear, I always promote, even in the house, sort of not walking barefoot. There's so many great trainers out there, but I always think it's personal preference, particularly with a runner. Stretching and strengthening exercises, people poo-poo it, but sort of again, the shockwave for management if you are struggling with it is really good. So yeah. Yeah, yeah.
So from the physio point of view, it's slightly a different way because I know at the bottom of them slides, the first thing to do was strengthen.
Yeah, yeah. No, no.
A hip problem or tendonitis.
No, absolutely not. Both from a physio point of view. So if you have a joint problem, which your women might feel that it's stiffness, so they stop doing certain things, that and it has a negative effect. You don't want to kind of completely cease everything. Same with tendons. Tendons don't like the ups and downs. They don't like undulation. They like consistency. So you might find when you're delving into somebody's history that they haven't had necessarily a spike in something sometimes, because you say, have you done, I've got shoulder pain, have you done your garden, have you been sort of painting, decorating, whatever? No, I haven't done anything. Have you had a period of time where you've kind of dropped off? What? Oh, I've been on my holidays. I've not I've had a few weeks off. I've been unwell. Sometimes it's that drop off and then trying to return back to norm. But no, tendons like consistency, joints like movement. So no, this shouldn't be being told. And me personally, myself, I can't do that. So when people come and they say, "You're not going to tell me I can't do that," and I get it totally. I've had struggled with my back on and off, and from you can just adapt things. There's 10 ways to skin a cat, and certainly I've learned from kind of my own just education really. And I think probably bodybuilding, the bits from that has been really helpful, because there's different ways to achieve what you want. And as shallow as it sounds, we want aesthetics as well. We want to, you want to look good, particularly as you're getting a bit older, and you want to feel good in you and be strong. And I think there's ways, modifications that you can make, and to go and see a doctor, and a lot of them do say, just stop what you're doing. A lot of the consultants do at Spire. And they sometimes withhold that prior to surgery, and then they do the surgery, and then these people want to get back to certain things running, and then they say, oh, you'll never run again. Well, why not say that before you kind of did the surgery? So yeah, I would say probably bypass if you don't want to medicate it. I mean, I can't sort of shoot down all GPs, because there are good ones out there. When we did the event at Spire, and it was more there was a fantastic lady there. I can't remember her name. She was a GP. She's now what's called a sexologist. She was unreal what she knew about, particularly about sort of changing HRT. Not for talk here tonight, but issues with sex, relationships. She was just, if any of you need any kind of advice in that area, I can get you a name. She is absolutely fantastic, really, really experienced, knowledgeable lady. But yeah, that's just another infographic I found. Little bit, get your basics right. I know the other guys are going to talk about that. Just be consistent, get your basics right. If you start to notice changes, yeah, get help. Don't be passed off as it's, yeah, you shouldn't be doing, you shouldn't be training, you shouldn't be doing the things, it's age. That's just touching into I'll leave that for Liam, because I think it'll probably cover a lot of what he's talking about. And this is quite something that's come out quite recently, which is really good. This is recently updated. It hadn't been updated since 2009, and this has come from the American College of Sports Medicine. And the basics of this, they looked at it was over 137 systematic reviews about the importance of resistance training. And the key messages really from it were you just need a sensible plan, enough effort, and that's one thing kind of you find from group training. I think certainly from training with others, that encouragement, it gives you more of a drive to train. That's one thing I love from kind of training with other people. And consistency. It doesn't need to be fancy, but as we all know from social media, complicated sells. Occlusion training, for example, the fancy stuff looks great, doesn't it? But it's always about getting your foundations and your basics right, in my opinion. Lift things progressively, recover, and repeat, really. And I'm sure that's similar to kind of what Liam for me. And then, like I say, you can ask questions at the end. Just don't train too much, really. On there.
It clicks the opposite way to what you think.
Oh, of course it does.
That's what
Shall I turn it upside down?
Yeah, might work. Just keep pressing it until you see something that you recognise.
He has actually turned it upside down.
Right, now we'll practice play.
So press down
Yeah,
or up.
you think it's going to be up, but you go down. See?
But now I can't go back the other way. Oh.
Well, it was fine when George had it.
Are we getting there already? I'll see if it works.
Press that button. Don't go backwards.
No, don't go back, does it? All right.
We're very technical people.
Well, it's good to see loads of faces. I know quite a lot of you, so I'm going to be preaching about a lot of things that a lot of you already do, but there is a few people who are here who don't attend some of our gyms, isn't they? So just a quick raise of hands. Recognise a couple of faces who don't attend our gyms. Okay? Okay, cool. So those who do attend our gyms, some of the things I'm going to talk about today, if you already know it, then tell your kids, tell your mum, tell your dad, tell your gran, tell your granddad, because this is all relative to everybody. So a little bit about myself. So I've been, for those who don't know, been running CrossFit Hull and Humber now. One of our sites is 10 years old, the other's 13. CrossFit Brough, a few members already here, opened 18 months ago. I run Move Humber, which is for aging populations and long-term health. And then we have just recently started Cock Around the Block, after we copied off what Jules did. So she's got a women's only club. So I was like, okay, I'll have a man's only club as well. So pretty busy. 2 kids, a partner, loads going on. So the things that we're going to discuss today, so we're going to talk about aging and what happens as we age. So the quote there, the natural progressive process of growing older characterized by accumulation of molecular, cellular and physical changes over time. We cannot stop it, but we can slow it down and help ourselves as we age. I really wish Ainsley was here tonight.
I'm going to tell her that
Right
you put
next to
that
that
next
picture.
to that. She'll kill you.
When I put it on, I thought, oh, I'm going to get grief for that. But she looks bloody good. So the agenda, why strength training matters, which I know a lot of you are bought into already because you attend the gym. Preserving bone density, muscle mass and strength, boosting metabolism, balance and coordination, which is going to be a big thing for as we get older, as George sort of talks about. Mental well-being, and then if you aren't started, how to get started or how you can help friends, family, whoever also get started. Just thinking about it. There you go. So, why strength training matters. So, as an overview, strength training promotes long-term health and independence. It's not just for athletes. Looking around the room, most of us are at the gym, and we're not athletes. It's for lifelong well-being, adaptable for all ages in fitness, and crucial for midlife and as we get older. So that's Di, one of our athletes, in his 60s, 64, 65 maybe. Has been active throughout her life, so she really does see the benefits. And those who train with her know how good Di is. Like, she's up in the top sort of couple of percent in the world in her age group for CrossFit, but has had a solid background. So as George was saying, training throughout your life will help you as you get older, and that is absolute living proof. There is our Di. Don't get on the wrong side of her. So first thing we're going to talk about is preserving bone density. So weight-bearing exercises stimulate bone growth and strength. Lifting helps slow down the natural bone loss. Stronger bones reduce fracture risks, especially in post-menopausal women. Resistance training helps improve bone density in those key areas, the back and the hips especially. Regular strength training can help maintain posture and bone structure. So this next slide sort of digs into it a little bit more when it loads up. So bones are living tissues. So I think a lot of people see bones as like the solid structure. Boom, they're there. Don't have to worry about those. Can't really see them. You can see muscle, so it looks good. If we put a bit of weight on, lose a bit of weight, you see the difference. Bones kind of just in the background doing their things, but they are constantly breaking down and rebuilding in almost the same way that our muscles do as well. So muscles break down in order to grow, and that's why we lift weights, to create these sort of minor tears and stresses, and that is how we promote growth. And it's the same thing with bones. So stress acts as a signal to the body to lay down more bone tissue, making them stronger and denser. As we age, especially during menopause, our estrogen levels drop, bone breakdown happens faster. That's why strength training becomes important. It helps slow down bone loss, maintain bone strength, reducing the risk of osteoporosis and fractures as we get older. So healthy bones adapt to loads and under which it's placed. So also, the more you lift, the stronger you'll get. As George said, we don't want to overlift because we don't want to do damage elsewhere. But if we're constantly lifting, we are going to help maintain that bone strength. As you can see, I'm going to rattle through these really quick and let some experts talk about it. So muscle mass and strength. So as we know, muscles loss naturally occurs with age. Lifting helps counteract that. Maintaining muscle supports daily activities and in our independence. And independence is actually why we started Move. The bit I talked about at the start about aging and long-term health is our goal with Move was to have independence for as long as possible. So our older members who come to that, we are hopefully giving them a better and longer life. So strength training improves muscle tone, balance, and mobility. Having strong muscles reduces the risk of falls. Again, I'll go into this a little bit more. And muscle strength supports joints and reduces stiffness. So from about the age of 30, so I guess most people, if not everyone, is over 30. Have got anybody under 30?
That was a bold move.
I said nearly everyone. I was looking around. So we naturally begin to lose muscle mass as a process known as sarcopenia. So this happens slowly at first, around 3 to 8% per decade, but then speeds up as we get over. A bit more like compounding interest. The older we get, the more that accelerates. So hormonal changes including declines in our estrogen, progesterone. Say that right? I've said it about 10 times today trying to get that right. And testosterone can accelerate the process, especially during pre and post menopause. If we're not strength training, muscle loss leads to reduced strength. I know it seems pretty obvious, that one. Slower metabolism and increased risk of falls. The good news is that strength training can significantly slow, stop, or even reverse this at literally any point, as long as we're willing to start. So if you're not at a gym or lifting, now is your time to do that, and there's loads of people in this room who can help out. Little quote there at the bottom there: if it feels easy, it's probably not working. So if you go into the gym, you're like, yes, that ain't gonna help. You need some intent, some intensity behind what you're doing. Cole, the only man in the room, is staring at me. And look at me, because he knows I say this to Cole a lot. You shouldn't have been staring at me that much. So next slide, as it appears, bit on metabolism, but that is what Jules is going to be talking about. Come on, technical.
I like how you're looking at me.
For the brave party.
Oh,
There
here we go.
That was
So
good, wasn't it?
metabolism naturally slows as we age. Doesn't sound good getting old, does it? Literally everything's just on that decline. Particularly during menopause due to hormonal changes and loss of muscle mass. Muscle is metabolically active, meaning it helps burn. So it weighs more, we burn more calories by holding more muscle, to break it down nice and easy. So a little bit about balance and coordination. I was talking to one of our members who's a consultant A&E doctor today, and he sent me some stuff to share with you, because it's, especially if you're thinking about your parents and your grandparents, it's quite scary how quick this happens, really. And I put there, this is one we don't realise until we hit the deck, because you think they're okay. Parents, like I say, grandparents, these are the ones that we should be talking and trying to help if we don't feel we're in that position yet. So strength training enhances core stability, improving balance. Better coordination reduces the risk of falls, especially as we age. Stronger muscles support joint stability. They all seem pretty obvious, don't they? But improved reaction time, something that I don't really think about, because you kind of just do it. If you kind of slip, you stop yourself. That is one thing that we lose as we get older if we are training to keep that, really. Consistent resistance training helps maintain functional movement throughout the daily tasks. So this is what Austin sent me today. So impact of bed rest in 24 hours, and this is how quick it can go. So loss of 5% of muscle power within 24 hours of being in bed from a fall. Reduced circulatory volume of up to 5%, which then goes on to the postural hypertension, which is a sudden drop of blood pressure. So it becomes this revolving door of falling. That's it. Everybody to start with, and he did send me some figures back and put it on, that over the age of 60, these numbers start to increase. And then also between 70 and 80, it goes from about 10% to about 25%. And deaths from falls at the age of 70 to 80 is 30% of all falls. Leads to death within 12 months. So this is one that we can definitely take away and tell everybody about. So looking at what happens in 24 hours and then what happens over 7. So it goes from 5% to 25% pretty quick on the circulatory, and reduce muscle strength from 5% to 10% just within a week. So a bad fall for anybody can have that sort of quick effect. And a long-term consequence of loss of independence, increased likelihood of requiring care, more time in hospital, risk of readmission, and the adverse effects as well. So this isn't happening over years, it's literally can happen over days as well. So one of the biggest things we should be thinking about is this. And it doesn't take long, but it takes even longer to get that back as well. So if you find yourself in that position, or someone you care for, you know, we are going to have to help them out on that one.
This just from falls and that.
This is risk of falls, yeah. No, I think we're all right. I think we're like past, yeah, unconscious in a bed because you've had a bad fall. Yeah, yeah. No, you haven't just had a rough Saturday night and spent all day Sunday like I did.
Netflix and
Gemma will be just setting alarms at 6 o'clock. I cannot have a day in bed. No, this is from a fall or accident, bedridden in hospital. Yeah. No, not a bad day. Yeah. I'm glad we cleared that bit up.
They can be very similar.
Yeah.
The whole royal effect.
So mental well-being. This is a massive thing. When we surveyed our members, why they go to the gym, mental health was up there as one of the biggest ones, really. So lifting weights releases endorphins and natural mood lifters. Strength training can reduce anxiety. Achieving strength goals builds on a sense of accomplishment. Lifting can help regulate with sleep, which is, again, you can end up in that bad cycle of bad sleep, bad mood, and it just keeps on going. Consistent training fosters body positivity and create a sense of purpose and healthy habits. So we can get our training right. That can then also roll into our nutrition, can roll into our sleep, and all of a sudden we're making the smaller steps for better things. So I say this all the time, no one regrets doing a workout. Might do whilst doing the workout. Don't misunderstand what I'm saying. But when you walk out the door and that heart rate's settled a little bit, we've said this on the podcast loads of times, haven't we? You're like, oh, it's good that. It was hard, but it was good. You've got that self of, that achievement. So the DOMs, but then you go back to the gym and we don't worry about those. So I was digging through loads of pictures, really, and as we are here to talk about women, the middle picture with the girls, it was literally Saturday morning. So that's our CrossFit Kids class. So we've got 4 years, my little Olive, 4 years. And then we've got all the way through to little Poppy, who's actually about 15 now, with a load of our members on a charity day we was doing. We've got a couple of women there who have competed at our gyms when we run competition. And then we've got Denise in the far corner, who's one of our move members, who's, oh, it's she's 78, she's not, she's about 68, coming up to 69. And trains a couple of times a week with us. Get there. A lot of you know this one anyway, but awkward now, isn't it? Yeah. Funny first time. Hey, we go. So getting started. So there's a few faces on there. Yeah, we're in the room. For those who don't attend the gym and are thinking, well, you're all talking really good stuff at me, but what do I do about it?
You need to press it and then press it again straight away. And then...
Is it the clicker or the laptop?
The laptop's doing it.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, it's
Getting lost.
yeah.
In
It goes through the spaces. Yeah, no, the laptop's working. So it's normal. Sorry, to feel anxious and intimidated if you're thinking, I might be a little bit older. Where do I start? What do I do? The hardest part is always either reaching out, sending a message, walking through the door, going for a walk around of somewhere. Again, this is written in our gyms a lot. Everything is better with friends. Get a friend to go with you. Take them along. I know a few faces in here who turned up with friends and are still training with us now. That probably wouldn't. Would I say that's right, Woods? Yeah. Don't do it alone, because it's really, really difficult. Even for someone like myself who's trained all my life, training on your own absolutely sucks. Find a coach, find a PT, find a gym like ours that does group fitness. Age-related classes, we mentioned that we do a sort of over 60s class. There's other gyms, I know that in here, they do, Simon, you might know, the age group, they do a fitness class in here, don't they, for elderly? Yeah, I'm sure. So there's loads of gyms that do stuff. And if you was to start with people of your sort of own age and peers, you then might have a bit more confident to go in and try in other gyms as well. And there is, like I say, there's a lot of gyms out there that can do it, and you don't have to do it alone. Oh, I pressed that early because I was thinking it was going to delay. I didn't go back now. But this is literally my last slide, and I'll pass you over to somebody who actually knows what to talk about. So few things that we say all the time, and I've said this as I've put little quotes on it all the time. Something is always better than doing nothing. Movement is good. Strength training, powerlifting. Some of you might be thinking, oh, what's powerlifting? But doing squats, doing a deadlift, and doing a press is something that we should all be able to do for as long as possible. Essential to longevity as well. Lifting heavy, and when I say lifting heavy, I mean that's relative to you. Lifting heavy. So what is relative is what your strength allows. Essential for living and not surviving. So you don't just want to be sat in a care home taking medicine. Oh, I've lifted 90, but I ain't moved for 20 years. That's not going to be fun, is it? So keeping as active as you can for as long as you can. Sedentary lifestyle will reduce your lifespan and lead to chronic illnesses. So we want to stay away from those. So my little takeaway is lift heavy. It's got to be relative, and that's how we're going to maintain that muscle mass and bone density. We need to lift heavy. There's no point, like I say, a couple of cans of beans in the kitchen. Again, it's better than nothing, but we should be lifting to something that is difficult with some intensity. Move more. So get up, run, jog, walk, stretch, bike, do anything. But if we sit, even if you attend the gym, Austin did give me the proper quote to this today, but if you sit all day doing nothing, let's say you work at home and you sat at the kitchen table working all day, you get up, you make your tea, you go sit down. If you go to the gym 3 to 5 times a week, it literally wipes out all of that. So even though you think, oh, I go to the gym, I'm okay, it's not. You do need to be on your feet more, getting up. There's apps, my watch tells me to move more. There's loads of things that you can have a little reminder, and it might be, I'll just go upstairs, come back downstairs, I'll go to the toilet, I'll come back, I'll make a drink, I'll go for a walk, I'll go pick the kids up, or I'll walk to shop instead of driving to shop around the corner. All these little things, I don't know if you'll touch on this, but we talked about it on the podcast, that as you get older, you don't do the school runs, and you don't do those everyday activities because you're not needed as much. High protein diet, fuel your body to repair. You need to eat protein, look after your bones and our muscles, and sleep is probably the best recovery tool you can ever use. It's a shame you can't bottle it up. Okay, be the oldest in the gym, not the youngest in the care home. So again, another one of our little quotes that gets thrown around a lot. But I know I'm preaching to a lot of you who are attending the gym already, but if you're not, speak to somebody in the room, speak to us, or mention it to your friends, family about going and trying to find something to get started. But that is me done. Thank you. Let Jules come and do the talking now.
Right, see if I've got a delayed clicker. Hi guys, thank you for coming. Thank you for listening to me. I can't do anything in small quantities, so I've got loads of slides. I'm probably just going to power through it. So if I'm talking too fast, just you'll all tell me if I'm not making any sense. Pardon? Yeah, okay, thanks.
I think you're going to power through with them slides at that speed, you will.
Yeah, that's true. This will naturally slow me down. Okay, so about me, I have a nutrition consultancy called Life and Fork, and a podcast to go with that. My background was originally I worked in the film industry. I ended up becoming a single mum, and it was quite problematic working in London and abroad. So I moved back up and kind of now attract my own tribe, which is middle-aged women who have been on. I'll put it this way: it's easier to ask them what diets they haven't been on than asking them what they have been on. I also work as a performance nutritionist at Hull City Football Academy. So that's with young kids from like 7, 8 up to under 23s. Founded Slow as Fork, the run club for people that hate running, which accidentally became women only. But then luckily Liam set up Cock Around the Block. So now we can just divert men to that, which is great. And do quite a lot of corporate wellness educating because that's quite big these days. Mum to 4 children, one in the sky, Sylvie. So, sorry I've gone. Big advocate of baby loss and crying in public about it. Accidentally, grief led me to running and accidentally did an ultramarathon this year. It wasn't an intentional thing at all, but I've taken a lot from that. And caring for a mum with Alzheimer's. So really, really in the midst of I'm like the most stereotypical perimenopausal woman you could meet. I literally tick every box, which hopefully helps me as a coach. So just to start with, just to get a show of hands, at what age do you think metabolism starts to slow down? So 30s, 40s, C, 50s, D, 60s. So who thinks it might be in the 30s? Okay, 40s, 50s, 60s? No takers? Okay, on the wrong way. Does that mess it up, or does it come back? Oh, we're back. I think it's going to come on in a minute. So from 20 to 60, our metabolism stays remarkably stable. There's actually no alteration to our metabolism. From age 60 plus, it declines by 0.7, around 0.7% per year. So that leads me to the age-old, probably the most common quote I get when I get someone new on board is either I'm doing everything I should be, but the weight is piling on, or I'm not doing anything different and the weight is piling on. So if we can't attribute it to our metabolism not slowing down, which it isn't, we need to start looking at what is creating this. And just to reassure, oh my God, is it just going to go slow now? I feel your pain now, Liam. So I'm in the trenches with you. That was me, what, over 10 years ago. Couldn't run 5K. I say strength training, but it was just, I don't know if anyone ever trained at Proactive, but we just used to go in and talk for 50 minutes and then lift weights for 10. And I used to do it 1 to 3 times a week. I was on the low carb train back then, quite an ultra processed diet, hardly ate any fiber and any whole foods, and just got away with it. Now, couldn't be doing more to be doing the right things. Literally running marathons and ultra marathons, strength training really consistently at least 3 times a week. Macros are on point, especially protein. I eat a high fiber diet. I try and eat a lot of whole foods. I don't eat no processed foods because that's not my ethos, but I eat less. And definitely don't look like I did 10 years ago, doing all the things that generically would be told to do to stay in good shape when we start to become menopausal. So, I'll start talking before the slide comes up. What is happening? So the starting point is we do have menopause symptoms, which I hope are going to come up any minute. I mean, I don't really need a slide. I'm sure most of you in this room know what menopausal symptoms are because a lot of you are probably experiencing them, but they go from like the wild to the ridiculous. So the ones in larger font are the more common ones, but I have clients with the sensation spiders are crawling over them whilst they're asleep, electric shocks while they're asleep, which sounds delightful. They're all there to be seen, and it's so individualized. We all have such different experiences. Often some people get away scot-free, some people get a few, some people get whacked with the whole lot. I always say we'll never know the ones that don't get any of them, because I don't think anyone would admit that to a room of menopausal women, that they just sailed through it and didn't have any symptoms. I don't dare press it now. Which one?
Press down.
Down. Right, okay, so they're just going to go slow now. So what is happening is we have the perfect storm. So really conveniently, at this stage in life when we're having all these horrific side effects, it's about the same time that I tend to see clients, their kids have become hormonal teenagers. We're also seeing, as we're having children later in life or having like a second round of children, we've got teenagers and toddlers. And again, I've managed to fit myself in that exact demographic. So I'm dealing with the emotional turmoil of teenagers, and I always say you're only as happy as your unhappiest child, and if you've got teenagers, there is always one that's really unhappy. And then toddlers causing chaos. On top of that, there may be elderly parents. That certainly blindsided me the most because they're not in your house. So you've then got this other set of, mine have both had dementia, so other set of children to look after that live 15 minutes away that I have to go to twice a day. That adds to the toll. Careers can be peaking, so stress is high, or alternatively, I'll see maybe a partner's career peaking. So now a woman is at home more because her husband's working longer or is working away. So we tend to see, wine, loneliness, things like that creeping on an evening, which can start to add to the problems. There's usually grief, maybe a parent or sibling or a baby, as you've all seen. I love a bit of grief in public. Or just family logistics. As kids, well, all ages, they need taking everywhere. And these days we feel that pressure to have them doing every extracurricular activity known to man. So there just tends to be all this going on and then teamed with all the side effects of menopause. And it just becomes this massive kind of thunderstorm of overwhelm. Yet we're wondering why we're not getting enough exercise done and we're all starting to gain a bit of weight. And now we know that metabolism's not changing. So the mechanism of energy balance actually remains the same. Nothing is happening. Your metabolism is not slowing down. The energy in, energy out formula is still exactly the same. Yet compared with premenopausal women, we do see hyperphagia, which is an increase in appetite, an uncontrollable increase in appetite. And then 36, these are different studies, but an increase in fat around the abdominal area. So we do have this re-estrocation of fat in menopause. When estrogen levels drop, the body will start to lay fat more around the middle. So quite often, it's not that you've actually gained weight. It's that as women, we tend to notice where we've put weight on, but not where it's not as prevalent anymore. So you'll see, because we're not childbearing anymore, we don't tend to hold as much fat around the hips and your backside, genetics dependent. We tend to start to see if we do lay any fat, it tends to sit around here. And in the same mechanism applies, if we lose fat, we'll start to see it will probably go off here more than it used to go off there. But we tend to not notice because we're just fixated on where we're suddenly seeing new fat emerge. So what has changed? Oh, that one went fast that time. It's the same answer I would have given you as a 25-year-old female. So the way I'll describe this is if I got you to sprint down a track when you're 25, you'd be able to just sprint. If we chuck the menopause into the equation, it would be like getting you to sprint down that track, but whacking a big sled in front of you with a load of weights on it and going, just keep going at the same speed. Like, it's fine. Just keep trying to go through it. Something is pushing, well, lots of things actually, are pushing against you and making that less easy to carry out. So although hormonally lots is changing in perimenopause, physiologically most stuff actually hasn't changed. It's the symptoms of aging and menopause are changing, and your daily behaviors because of this are going unnoticed. So I wasn't going to bring this up because I'm trying to not do my usual long talk, but what Alex was referring to, I always use one client as an example that had a son at primary school. She'd suddenly gained a load of weight, and nothing's really changed. When we really delved into it, the son was at primary school. She walked him to school every day. She walked back home, worked, went back to get him, came home, sorted food out for him when he got in. He had extra clubs, so get him ready, take him, walk him around the corner to football, etc. And then the son then moved to secondary school and started walking to secondary school. So now she doesn't have to walk him there and back in the morning. She's not walking him there and back in the afternoon. When he's getting him from school, he's now old enough to just make himself a snack. So she's now sitting at a desk from 8:30 in the morning until 5:30, 6 at night, whereas it used to be, 9 till 3, then more movement when he got in. And when you start to add up that, it can look like 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 steps a day, which can quickly over 5 days be 20,000 steps. It's 80,000 steps a month. I might have got that wrong, but you get the picture. It's a lot less steps a month, but it's not something that we're registering as anything's changed. You're not thinking of yourself as any less active. And this is a really good example of what's happening in menopause, is these tiny micro changes, maybe a house move, a job move where you used to walk to a train station and commute and now you're working from home. These are the things generally that we start to see are the problem, more than the fact that our, hormones are all over the place, which again doesn't help. But what I'm trying to get at is it's this mixture of lifestyle changes and the fact that the estrogen drop and the fact that we are just aging come together and create all these problems. So if we look at what is actually happening when we go into menopause, sleep disruption, as much as 50% of women going through perimenopause have disruptions with their sleep. This is a natural part of aging. It's not menopause specific. It's just what happens as we get old. Aging disrupts our circadian rhythm. So we start to see that lower quality in sleep. We also have conditions such as that Georgia made reference to, musculoskeletal and neurological symptoms. So just needing to get up and wee more in the evening will disrupt sleep. Add to that a bit of anxiety, and once we're up for a wee, we then can't get back to sleep. So that can impact sleep. And there's an abundance of data showing that when people are sleep deprived, they eat more. The most famous study, one cohort had 8 hours, the other had 4 hours. And on average, they ate over 560 more calories the next day. It's a significant difference how much we overeat when we're sleep deprived. And what's interesting is it's generally snacking where the extra calories come in. So it's not that we're overeating at meals, it's that we tend to snack more to get those boosts in energy. It also lowers GLP-1, which years ago I had to explain what it was, but I don't anymore. But it's basically the hormone that allows us to remain satiated, full. That lowers, so we tend to not stay as full as long and then get that drive to go and snack again. And also, if you're awake, there's more opportunity to eat. So people just sometimes overeat because they're generally awake more. Other effects of the menopause, vasomotor symptoms, so hot flushes, very common in menopause. Mood changes, you're 2 to 3 more times to suffer depression or anxiety when we're in the menopause. Estrogen plays a massive part in appetite regulation. So when those estrogen levels drop and those receptors aren't getting hit, it starts to mean that we're less satiated. We don't feel as full as much. And for some women, they see this just drive in appetite. There's all of a sudden they can't seem to get satiated, and often that can be their body's response to that drop in estrogen. And pelvic health symptoms, incontinence, low libido, painful sex, causes its own problems for you. It can cause problems in relationships, generally can make life a lot more miserable. So when you look at all those factors, is it really any wonder that we're seeing this kind of drop in desire to exercise and move, an increase in food intake? You know, poor sleep, we know you're far less likely to want to go and train if you've had a rubbish night's sleep. If you're feeling depressed, again, it's not exactly got you in the mindset of, oh, I can't wait to get in the gym and smash it. Incontinence is a massive barrier for a lot of women. Musculoskeletal pain, although the best thing they could do is actually go and train, quite often women will use that as a reason, you know, that makes them feel like they don't want to do it. Brain fog just messes everything up. Family getting in the way of maybe you going to the gym and then someone needs a lift somewhere. Work responsibilities, the amount, especially with the run club, the amount of people that are coming and then something gets in the way of work, that stops it. And all these stop you training as much and moving as much, but then conversely, they also lead poor sleep, you eat more. Feeling depressed, you tend to emotionally eat. I wouldn't say incontinence makes you eat more, but pain drives us to eat more. Tiredness, stress drives us to eat more. So you can see that all these side effects of what we're going through are creating this really unfavorable combination of moving less and eating more. And that's generally what needs, you know, the work, where the work needs to be done with women that I work with in this age group. So what do we know actually helps? So there isn't a load of research on menopause and women in general, but there is research. So we can only look at what we've got. We know that hormone replacement therapy helps, and we know that lifestyle interventions help. Hormone replacement therapy is way out of my scope of practice. It's not something that I am qualified to talk about or give advice on. My bag is the lifestyle interventions. So that's what I focus on today. And because we've had the other guys here, what I normally talk about would be resistance training, stress, and sleep hygiene, because personally I think those two are actually one of the most significant things. Ironically, more so than nutrition, even though that's what I do. But today I am just going to home in on the nutrition side of things. And if anyone's got any more questions, feel free to ask at the end. I can't help but just get this slide in. So on a meta-analysis of things that we know for a fact help menopause, exercise beyond menopause is the only non-controversial and beneficial aspect of lifestyle modification and must be adopted by all. So the only thing that we categorically know helps with menopause symptoms is exercise. So there's no way, I mean, I know I'm kind of preaching to the choir in this room, but just to pass that message on. And I think, as George alluded to earlier, tell your daughters, tell your sons to tell their girlfriends, you know, the menopause is just mapped on to the lifestyle you've already been living. And if you, everything Georgie said earlier, if you can get that bone density and that muscle mass built up younger, you are setting yourself up for much less of a, you know, miserable menopause. And again, I haven't gone into this because it's not my bag today, but the amount of studies showing it's not too late. You can start at 60, 70, 80, the impact that has. I think it's even walking 30 minutes a week reduces relative risk of sudden death by 0.4, which is so relevant. And it's 10 minutes a day. And you can start that at 60 and it will instantly start to have that impact. So like I say, I know I'm preaching to the choir, but it's just like, go you lot, because you are literally doing the best thing you could be doing to not have a horrific menopause. So if I go on to nutrition, we'll start with protein. I know I get a bit of an eye roll now because protein's just been rammed down everyone's throats because basically the entirety of Aldi and Lidl is just protein everything. But I think it's somewhere in there the message has been kind of lost that it is really important. It comes from the Latin word of first importance. If I were to chuck you on an island, you'd survive quite well without carbohydrates. You wouldn't do great without fats, but you'd survive. But if there was no protein, it would be eventually you would perish away. The reason being it's responsible. Every cell, every part of our body is made from amino acids and only amino acids, and they only come from protein. So every time the body is having to repair and renew anything, it's doing that with the amino acids from protein, these essential amino acids that we can't make ourselves. So it's imperative that we get enough protein in the diet. I think we see it as, you know, what repairs and renews muscles, and that's great, but it has so many other functions. It's a large component of making food, the enzymes that digest our food. So, you know, a lack of protein, a lack of digestive enzymes, we're not going to break food down as much, we're not going to absorb as many nutrients from it. It's a huge part of our immune function, energy balance. When we look at the meta-analysis of what is the most effective thing for weight loss, high protein diets always come out on top every time. The reason being carbohydrates and fat and protein on a satiety index, protein is remarkably higher than fats and carbohydrates. So we know it fills us sooner and it fills us for longer. So if appetite is a problem in menopause, eating a higher protein diet will facilitate that and allow you to feel fuller for longer. So how much protein?
Jules, can I just ask a question on that?
Yeah.
It's probably where speaking about is when you say like you walk into Lidl and there's all the different types of proteins. I don't think, I might be wrong, a lot of people understand the difference between a complete protein from an animal based,
Yeah,
a pea protein, collagen protein, and it's just rammed on all my social media feeds as well. So I'm pretty sure if you go to the gym, it'll be on yours. There's a big difference between how we get our protein in.
yeah, and I think things like there's like Nature Valley protein bars. So as a rule of thumb, if it's over 20 grams of in my personal opinion, I don't think it should be allowed to be called high protein unless it's got over 20 grams of protein in it. I'll explain that a bit more on the next slide. And there is some controversy in like the medical world, they'll throw 1.2 grams around. In the nutrition world, you'll see 1.6 grams thrown around. And actually, there's a study came out last week that pretty much nailed it on. That should be 1.6 grams. And actually, anything above that is a bit of a waste of time. So it really is that sweet spot. And that's even for bodybuilders and people, you know, going up to 2.2 grams isn't necessary. So to stick around this amount is a nice sweet spot, particularly when we are menopausal. I'll go on to that in a minute. But it can be a bit overwhelming at first. If you're probably all quite well. Is anyone here make a marked effort to eat high protein because they know they should be doing? So yeah, generally that again I'm preaching to the choir. It's not in wine, Mel. But as a rule of thumb, for me, I try every meal should have 30 grams of protein in breakfast, lunch, dinner. That's just a simple, because at least if you're doing that, you're getting 90 in, which it sits at the lower end of about where most women should be at. So if it's not something you've concentrated on yet, just aim for 25 to 30 grams per meal and then try and work up to what your actual calculation of 1.6 grams per kilogram of body weight is. Any questions on that? Does everyone understand that? Yeah.
It can be quite hard to get that amount of protein in.
Yes, and that's why when you go in Lidl and there are like shakes and yogurts, and I'll fully get behind that because like on the way here, I literally ate a protein yogurt with a spoon while I was driving to make sure I got something in. Like I'm fully in the trenches with that. And those, it's just the things like the protein bagels that are like, I think they've got 1 gram more and more calories than a normal bagel. It's like we don't need to be looking to bagels to get our protein from. Probably look to sources of dairy and meat and beans and, you know, tofu, whatever your choice is. But again, if it's helping someone get close to the goal than not eating it, then I'll get behind that as well. It's just about getting more in and getting as close to that goal as possible. Now, the reason I'll go on about it so much with menopausal women is something called the leucine threshold. So as we age, and this isn't menopause specific, as we age, we get what's called anabolic resistance. So technically, someone who's anabolically sensitive, so a young person, will have everything kind of in check, you know, providing everything's, they're healthy. Muscle mass will be optimal, muscle tissue quality will be good, they'll be quite insulin sensitive, so it means they can dispose of glucose effectively. Arteries are in good nick, vascular health is great. As we age and we become anabolically resistant, all those things start to decline. So we tend to become a little bit more insulin resistant, and that's reversed by exercising and being active. And we have poorer muscle mass, and this impaired anabolic signaling is the thing I'm trying to get at here. When we're young, we have something called a leucine threshold. So leucine is the amino acid that triggers the response in the muscle to be repaired and renewed. So after you've been doing CrossFit, you will ingest protein, and when the body gets a certain amount of leucine, which is one of the amino acids in those strings of protein, when it gets enough of that one amino acid, it goes, brilliant, right, let's send a satellite cell to go to that muscle and start binding it all together again. As we age, that leucine threshold gets higher. So we have to eat more protein to trigger the same response at a much lower level of protein when we were younger. So essentially, eating larger bolus doses of protein as we age is more effective than like trickling it throughout our day, which is why I tell women to aim for 30 grams over at breakfast, lunch and dinner. So to get 90 grams in 3 servings is the word I'm looking for, will be far more effective as we age, is getting like 10 in throughout the day. Okay, so you can see there, a younger adult needs 0.24 grams of protein per kilogram of body mass, older need up to, has it died? No, it's back. I think it's going to come back. So older, you need nearly double that amount of protein to have that same response. So it seems a shame to be doing all this exercise, making all these adaptations with your muscle, and then effectively not delivering the bricks to build a house back again by not eating enough protein. So that's why I'll die on the hill of getting women who are from menopause onwards to eat, and that goes right through to 70s, 80s. So, and it's the one thing old people tend to eat less of because it's so satiating. So I know my mum's 76 and we just basically ram Starbucks protein coffee drinks down her all day because it's the one thing she likes. But at least I know we're trying to preserve the muscle mass that she's got, because annoyingly she's still really agile even though she's bonkers, bless her. So application of protein, how does this actually look in real life? And most people, most women, the biggest question I get is, oh, have you got some evening meal ideas? I'm like, it's not your evening meal you need to be worrying about. Everyone's nailing the protein on an evening meal. Because if you take any generic Western tea or dinner, whatever you want to call it, that's what about 25 to 30 grams of protein looks like. So that's a chicken breast, a tuna steak, a serving of mince in like a lasagna or a spag bol, the amount of chicken you'd have in a fajita serving. That's about bang on where we need to be. So evening meals are generally where everyone's getting it right. And then I'll put, if you add a portion of greens, that'll make it a 10 out of 10. Even eggs and beans on toast is a banger for fiber and protein if you push for time one night. A lot of people, they kind of give me a guilty face when they've served that to the kids. And I'm like, honestly, it's perfect. Don't worry about it. So evening meals, absolutely fine. What I tend to see more of, and this is pretty much every client when I first get them, is, come on. This is what I see all too often. So when I talk about most women have been on every diet known to man, when they've all swirled around in the head for 20 years and they've had all the diet culture thrust upon them through Instagram, a day looks like I'll have a coffee for breakfast, a really sad salad with hardly any protein in it, and then they finish work and we call that bread buttering hour. So they're literally buttering bread as they're making the tea because they're so hungry because they haven't had anything of any substance all day. They eat their evening meal, which they've absolutely nailed. And then all the evidence shows is, particularly with females, that the amount we overeat on an evening correlates to the amount of protein we load up at the front end of the day. So if you are functioning in life like this, and it's a really common pattern because it's effectively binge and restrict. It's like every day we wake up with this optimistic feeling that, oh my God, I've only had a coffee. I'm doing great. I've hardly eaten anything. And it's kind of wired into us. And we think we're doing great, and then every night I can hear the words about to come when everyone, it's after tea, I just can't get my head out the fridge. It's looking for chocolate bars that aren't there, and it's so common, and it makes so much sense because there's no protein going in at the front end of the day. So we need to start making breakfast and lunch look like that evening meal in whatever form that looks like and that works for you. So this would be my application. I've done the top layer for people who actually cook from scratch. I mean, well done if you do. It's incredible, and I have such admiration for people that do it. The bottom one is more my kind of bag, where everything is not processed, it's just convenient food, and there's a big difference. So I do spend most of my life eating yogurts in cars, squeezing yogurt pouches in, M&S poke bowls. I do try and cook an evening meal, to be fair, but even I don't manage that every time. But my point is, it doesn't, I'm more bothered about getting, your body does not look at an oldie peri-peri chicken bowl and going, bloody hell, that's come out of a packet, I'm not going to digest that. Your body sees protein, carbohydrates, and fats, and then breaks them down into smaller molecules. It doesn't care where they are coming from, and if they are made from scratch or if they've come out of a bowl. I always say, I would rather buy everything that's got the macros in I need than optimistically have that bottom drawer full of greens at the start of the week, and then by Saturday it's like juice that you've got to tip out and wash out every week. Because the intention's great, but the reality is, are we going to be, can we cook every meal from scratch? Do we want to spend our precious Sundays meal prepping all day? And some people do, and like I say, I absolutely admiration of them. But I think people think they either do that or they've failed. And I'm trying to get everyone to just sit in the messy middle and accept that the way we live our lives now, we need to take advantage of convenience food. And the food industry has responded. Yep.
Just on the last slide, don't go back though. So I know on them evening meals, really good ideas for protein and stuff, which are, they always come with a side of carbs on them, especially. I think a lot of people may be put off with the idea of, they've got that feeling of, I am putting on weight because of the menopause and I'm doing this. They will avoid them big meals, even though they're going to be massively under calories.
Yeah.
What would you say on hitting a protein goal and not worrying about maybe portion size with everything else, as long as they're hitting there? Like, what's more important, hitting the protein goal or the plate size?
It's a really good question, and anyone who works with me will concentrate on hitting the protein quite often. And again, it's a different demographic in this room because you all train, and hopefully you all eat loads of carbs, because I could do a whole other talk on being fueled if you train. But I think some women forget what it feels like to actually eat 3 regular meals and have regulated appetite hormones. I think a lot of people I work with don't actually know if they're hungry or full. Everything's become dysregulated. And I think the minute you get someone eating protein 3 times a day, it starts to calm that food noise, because that's usually what I'm dealing with, is just this constant, I shouldn't be eating that, but I want that, but I have to have this because I'm trying to be good, and now I've been bad. And so to calm that down, I'll put someone on regular feedings of protein, 3 regular meals a day at roughly the same time. Normally the protein takes care of the weight loss, but when it doesn't, that's something I'd go on to. The next slide will explain that. But if someone's been dieting for 20 years, for me, I'm quite open about it. To not diet for 2 months can probably be the most effective thing you've ever done for stress levels, all that type of thing. But a lot of women have never not been on a diet. They've never felt that calm of just eating 3 meals a day and the benefit that can bring. So I'd always go, just do that and see how it feels. And what you tend to find is you're so satiated, because if you've been living off coffee and a salad with no protein in it every day for 15 years, to suddenly have a breakfast, a protein yogurt with berries on and cereal, and then just an evening meal for lunch. Like, I have the same thing for lunch that I have for an evening meal. They can't believe that you can exist with that calm a mindset around food. And often they're so full that they stop snacking in between meals. And study after study after study shows us that weight gain comes from snacking, not really from overeating at meal times. So the trick is trying to get that satiation at meals, and a lot of women have never experienced that. Yeah. Yeah, and if so fasting, I tend to see it work better with men, because there isn't the emotional and the hormonal profiling that our appetites has become, but that being said, there's always outliers, and for some women, it really does work. It's when people try fasting but keep failing at it because they're doing that fridge picking on an evening. And then my advice then would be, it's probably not the solution for you. Like, there's hundreds of different diets and none of them are right or wrong. If someone is fasting successfully, great, if they're hitting the protein goal. But if they are fasting and keep failing at it and then want to keep going back to it, I'd ask the question, like, why do we keep going back to this when it keeps failing? But if you do that and you don't have, any problems, there's no like, oh, I'm gaining weight, I don't know what's happening, then absolutely, that's the tool in your box that works for you, and that's brilliant. It's my job to kind of try and find the right tool and assign it to the right person. But yeah, fasting, I tend people, they seem to want to stick with it, but it's not working for them. So it's just getting them to see that. Or some people it works brilliantly, and because it takes away that decision fatigue. It's one less thing to have to think about, which for an overwhelmed woman can work really well. Like, you don't have to think about breakfast to lunch. It's, one less thing. It's great. We lost it.
I think it's education with fasting as well, though, isn't it? People don't know the actual kind of what they're doing with fasting. I think you need to know the different types of fasting and how it works, and
and I think
science behind it.
The problem is there isn't actually any. It's literally just that if you're shortening your window of eating, your caloric intake drops,
which is different to a fast, really, isn't it?
So yeah,
when you're going into autophagy, when you're doing a proper fast for medical reasons, or it's totally different. Your window, you've got a window of when you're not eating, that's different to fasting, really, isn't it? And I think that lack of
the thing with fasting is it's not really conducive to a normal lifestyle. Like, I'll get people fast and then they're like, oh, I'm going to the pub on, I'm going to fast from, maybe they want to stop eating at 5, but then on Friday I'm going to the pub. Well, what are you going to do? Well, I'm just going to drink. Well, that's effectively carbohydrate.
And you're not in a calorie deficit.
Yeah,
they're looking at calorie deficit, aren't they? And it doesn't, like you said about menopause, a lot of women think that if they just restrict calories, but it's to do with it's insulin. It's so much more complex.
It is, it's I just find it, there are outliers, like I say, but generally I think people like the idea of it because it's simple, and as humans we like really simple rules. Right, I'm just going to eat from this time to this time, but then life can tend to get in the way a little bit. Probably, yeah, and that's the thing with that's my point. Like, the diets, they all amount to the same thing, but people need to create problems to have the solutions to make money off it, and that's essentially what every different diet is doing. Yeah. Yeah, because it aligned with, yeah. And my concern is it's getting the protein in, which, as you can now see, I'm so passionate about, because I'm like, you need those bricks to build. Yeah, and that's when drinking calories comes for me. Like, I have an iced coffee protein drink every morning. I don't really eat, as long as I've got 30 grams of protein in. That's how my day is governed. Like, have I got 30 grams in? Have I got 30 grams in? But then to build on that, you've got to start looking at fiber, and so it does get complex. Which takes me, it's a lovely segue into the, I can't see what it says because of that. Something needs to consume less directly. Oh, sorry, application of meat mod. So directly leads to consuming less ultra processed foods. So I work on the basis of what needs adding in, not what needs knocking out. The reason being that, and I'm sorry, these photographs are awful because they're basically just my food. They look like when you go to Spain and those menus I've discussed in like stained pictures outside. But it's just to get the point across. We have greens with every meal. It doesn't matter if it's spag bol, pizza, whatever, there's always some kind of greens. So you can see, and this is like when I've eaten out. The veg in restaurants is miles better than anything I cook. It's got chili and ginger and all that stuff on it. So when I order things like this, it'll often means I'll probably leave a third of the pasta So you put in essentially 40 calories of food into your stomach, and it's replacing about 300 calories of pasta. Now, our satiety is governed by stretch receptors in our stomach, so it's not by the caloric intake, it's by how much volume of food has gone into our stomach. So if we can fill a bit of that stomach with cruciferous veg, which is, bulky and stretches out in the stomach, it creates that satiety. It also adds fiber, it adds nutrients. It just makes more sense to do it that way. And the same goes, if like there I'm eating on a train a high protein mousse, I can't eat them, and I've had far too many of them in my life now to ever eat one again. But back then, I used to buy a punnet of raspberries and sling them on the top and eat it with them to get more fiber in. That's a Nando's rainbow bowl. So just, I'm gonna come back. Just that idea of when you start to do this and the game becomes, how can I get more veg? How can I get more fiber? How can I get more fruit into something that I really enjoy? All the kind of crappy foods tend to naturally start to drop off the bottom because you're focusing on these and you're getting fuller and you're not craving all those snacks in between meals. So it's just something that we tend to see is quite effective. Fiber is usually the thing I'll start wanging on about after protein. And when we start to add whole foods in, they naturally are really high in fiber. As we age, as we become menopausal, higher cholesterol becomes a problem. And beta-glucan, which is one of the fibers you'll get in like porridge oats, literally forms a gel in your body and goes around mopping up cholesterol and excreting it. So that's why when you look at like oats are good for heart health, heart friendly, all those things, it's because of the beta-glucan in there. Obviously, our risk of stroke and heart attack goes up considerably because estrogen is very heart protective. So when we start to lose those estrogen levels, we become more susceptible to strokes, cardiac arrest, things like that, and lowering that cholesterol helps to reduce the risk of that. So getting fiber in there, you can really complicate it, or you can just go, right, every meal, I have to put some kind of whole food in with the meal, and there we have it. And again, what naturally starts to happen is your overall caloric intake goes down, but the volume of the food you're eating goes up. So we have this lovely combination of being a bit fuller on slightly less calories and having slightly more energy because there's more nutrients going in, and the gut microbiome's getting more variety, which will always make you feel loads better. So don't mistake highly processed foods with convenience foods. If using convenience foods means less decision fatigue and overwhelm, and you're more likely to eat variety, I'm here for it. So I always use the point, if I was left to my own devices every lunchtime, I'd genuinely have a grilled cheese on toast with ham, because I don't have time to make anything. I don't have the inclination. Whereas if I've got, a bang bang noodle slaw, or I've got my M&S katsu poke bowl is my favorite. It's so much more nutrient dense than if I tried to make something myself. And then to add to that, these packets of lentils, barbecue beans, if I make a chili, it's like a pepper, onions, mince, chili sauce. Whack some barbecue beans and whack lentils in, we've upped the fiber, we've upped the protein, there's more variety in the food. It's doubled the volume of it, so it goes further. And again, as lazy as it sounds, I hate chopping veg, I hate chopping broccoli, there's bits all over the chopping board. I just buy green Meglis, and I appreciate they're more expensive, but that's where I choose to throw my money at because obviously health means quite a lot to me. So anything like this, that it means you're more likely to have a more nutrient-dense meal, do not demonize it because it's come out of a packet. Because I always say, if you that program of Stacey Solomon where she lays everyone's entire house out in an aircraft hangar, if you look at your yearly intake of food and lay that out in an aircraft hangar, what would it look like? Would the trend be that you're eating loads of variety, you're eating loads of whole foods? And if it came from this, as opposed to 365 grilled cheese and ham sandwiches, which is what would happen if I had to make something from my kitchen, I'd have a very less overall healthy diet. Because our body works in trends. It's not looking daily at what you're having, it's looking at trends over time. And if adding convenience in allows that to happen, then you're generally going to be in a healthier body. And same, we dip in and out because we get bored of them. They're absolutely brilliant. They're all, for most women, I'd always recommend aiming for around 550 calories, over 27 grams of protein in a meal. And these prep companies tick the box every time. And obviously every night's different. I sometimes just get them for my lunches because I obviously have to make food for everyone else. But it might be something you've never considered, and it can be a game changer in terms of you open the fridge, you stick it in the microwave and it's done, and it's got all the macros in that we need. How are we doing for time?
You all pick up your chairs and run at quarter past.
I can make this really simple.
Take 'em.
Supplements, yeah, they're the
There you
three
go.
supplements that we've got empirical data to show actually do something. Anything else is entirely up to you. The placebo effect can be up to 50% effective. So if you want to take anything else, absolutely fine. But in terms of pure evidence-based advice, these are the three that I'll categorically recommend every woman in menopause goes on. Omega-3, not so much if you eat oily fish more than 3 times a week. Vitamin D, 100%, especially from October to May, because we can't make vitamin D from the sun because of where we are equatorially on the planet. And creatine, slightly overplayed on social media. We don't have the evidence yet to say it's going to stop us getting Alzheimer's, and believe me, I'd be on it if we knew that for a fact. However, it can reduce brain fog. Jesus, that was ironic. I can't even say it. Can reduce brain fog and ability to perform when sleep deprived. We know that it's effective at that. So menopausal women, people with, if you've got children that have had babies, children that are doing exams, it's a really beneficial thing to get them as well, because it does help us perform better when sleep deprived and helps with reaction time as well, which goes back to what Lynn was saying.
Just on that as well, look at what you're buying. Cheap for a reason. So just make sure that.
But not with creatine.
I was just going to say creatine.
Creatine monohydrate is like toothpaste.
Yeah.
It's just creatine monohydrate, so get that B&M.
And the omega-3, just look at what you're buying. We did a comparison years ago that people I work with had bought Azazone, and I'd bought some really good ones. And he had to take 13 capsules for one of what I had.
Yeah.
So just be mindful. If it's cheap.
You'll see on the omega-3 that it's EPA and DHA are the only parts of it that all the research is done on. That needs to equate to a gram. Doesn't matter what else is in there. The EPA and the DHA is what needs to add up to 1 gram to be beneficial. And then I just made reference to collagen, what George was saying again. Absolutely take it if you want it. We're a very predatory demographic, so people will package things up and make them very expensive. If we look at the evidence, there's no clinical evidence for prevention of skin aging. And anything to do, collagen peptide supplementation in conjunction with exercise may be beneficial for the management of degenerative bone and joint disorders. The with exercise bit's fairly relevant because it's probably the exercise that's helping with that. Collagen, when I talk about these amino acids, it's not a complete chain. So when we ingest it, the body breaks it down into separate amino acids, and then the body decides what it's going to do with it. It's not like you take collagen and it stays in your body as collagen and then goes and attaches itself to the end of your bones or into your cheeks. It gets broken down into basic amino acids, and if the body needs to make digestive enzymes, it will use it for that. So to claim that it's doing these things with aging and joint health, it doesn't work like that. And the reality is, having a whey protein, taking a whey protein drink will have more impact on tendons and joints and collagen in the skin than collagen will, and it's far cheaper. So again, it's entirely up to you. The other studies show that it's only industry funding studies that show it to be effective, and any that were industry funded couldn't see any benefits to it. So it's just something to leave you with. So even though our hormones have gone out of whack in menopause, we're still not trying to balance them, but rather support them, ourselves and our well-being. Trying to do it alone is the worst, alluding to what these guys are here for. Again, I could do a whole talk on the data we've got on the power of community for women at this demographic. So you're in the right hands, that's for sure. Don't give your money to the grifters. All of these things are not something you need to be spending money on. You need to strength train, you need to move in some way, eat regularly and with intention, and by that I mean look at protein, look at fibre. Get outside, get to sleep at the same time, morning and night. See your mates and put your phone down. They're probably going to be more effective than throwing money at anything else. I've just put some positive echo chambers on there. Try and get your algorithms with some evidence-based, non-predatory content. I put myself on there, which is a little bit narcissistic, but I thought it'd be a bit weird if I didn't put myself on there, because hopefully you might want to listen to what I've got to say. But they're 3 absolute leaders in the industry. Love every single one of them. And then if you want to come run in, if you don't like running but you want to move a bit more, it's literally what we do. It's the slowest run club in Hull. You get told off for running too fast. We meet at Beech Tree every Sunday, and the last Wednesday of the month, we do a Tuesday, sorry. Last Wednesday of the month, we meet at Flower and Feast so we can eat loads of pastry afterwards. Slides are there if anyone wants it. And it's the lads on Monday. Slides are there if anyone wants those. Sorry for taking up too long.
I know. You want to go out the front quickly, if you won't mind? I'd just like to say thank you to everyone for coming tonight, but especially these three. We've got about 10 minutes for our local line dances. I really will.
Is it really line dancing?
Oh, should we join in?
I want to stay.
We'll push right up to 1:15 and then everyone's just got to get the chairs and trick them off. But
Okay.
thank you for you three coming up. It does mean a lot, and I've learned a lot. I hope everyone's at least took something away. But now is your chance to get any questions in that you want. If you have got any questions afterwards, we can make sure we get the answers to you, as well as all the slides. But I've got
Tom.
Is there? There's loads of symptoms there that could mean loads of different stuff for all three of your presentations. Is there a set stage or a point where you're classed as perimenopausal or menopausal? And if you are, at what stage should you maybe see someone about HRT? A lot of them symptoms could be passed off as something else, or you could be fobbed off by a doctor or a GP. What's your best advice for someone maybe who isn't sure, maybe a bit younger than suggested?
You want to go, Georgia?
From a clinical perspective, you never look at one thing in isolation. You've got to sort of delve deeper. Knowing from my own experience, learning sort of becoming a physio, you get a lot from talking to somebody. So I'm not a menopause specialist. My knowledge on kind of HRT, you signpost, but if you're starting to paint a bit of a picture that they're showing multiple signs of kind of early stages of menopause, there might be early onset. Ask about mother, is what I would do. Sort of, how do you remember how old your mother was when she started menopause? I don't know if you
exactly the same.
There's a massive genetic link there, and if in any doubt, find someone that kind of is more specialised in the area. I think it's a big thing to always hold your hand up and say, it's about on my scope, but I certainly will put you in the right direction to the right person. But yeah, a lot of stuff does get passed off, and people do have bad experiences with doctors, medics. But we live in a Western culture, we still live off a very medical model, really. I think we're becoming much more, we question things a lot more. The thing you said about convenience food, all of that's around at the moment. I mean, I've read the ultra processed people. I don't know if anybody else has. It opens your eyes massively. The satiety thing, just what are we eating? What are we feeding our children? But it's very difficult in the world that we live in the lives that we live, to not grab for those things, because we live our lives at 1,000,000 miles an hour. So the fact that they're responding to those, kind of us wanting more, is great to see, because the food agencies, I'm sure you can back this up, they're not regulated like drug agencies. What drugs have to go through to pass off and be available to us to take is not what the food agency
we are
is.
luckier thank God we're not in America. Ours is more regulated than America.
Yeah,
but
it's
I think,
terrible.
Again, it's, to that specifically, exactly that. Like if you see, I'm trying to think of an example. A spaghetti bolognese that's a microwave one is not as ideal as a spaghetti bolognese, but we can see that that's definitely, going to be more beneficial to your kids if we're having to buy some quick than like a turkey deep fried Twizzler that's been, So there's still a degree of there's a scale of that. And to go back to what George, from a clinical perspective, for me, if someone's not getting, I think what is most common is when people want HRT, the GP is not listening. They keep sending them away. I had a woman the other day, just at the end of the tether. And my advice to that is just log absolutely everything. Go into your GP armed with weeks, months of symptoms this every day. What was off that day? If it was a bad day, what was it that was off? And if you're lucky enough to be at a surgery where there's multiple doctors and own bruff, just come out the appointment and go and book and ask to see another doctor and keep your log, keep logging and go back and just keep going until someone is of the mindset that, right, I'm going to listen to this woman, she's come on. They can't argue with you when you've walked in with 6 months worth of symptoms that align with the menopause guide. So just it's annoying as anything, but that's probably what I've seen to be the most effective when someone doesn't feel like being listened to. Hello.
I've seen you up. Yeah. I don't recognise it.
I would start very little.
Wrong
Small
club.
amounts.
Wrong club.
Might not have a knee.
With the knee might not like that.
No, you came and walked, didn't you? You came and walked with the dog.
You've got to find something you enjoy.
Yeah. Working with a PT maybe would be better than jumping into big groups, to be honest. I'm not telling you what we do, but like find a PT who has experience you can work with, start small baby steps and keep those small baby steps going for months. You've got to build some consistency. And I would say don't jump into going, I want to do 500 crunches at home and then I won't do anything for another few weeks. It's got to be those baby steps. And just build some regular habits. Let the body get used to doing exercise again. Take it really, really slow. Do something, but moderately, and then build the intensity, like I said, over months.
Communication is key as well. If you're working with someone, a PT, like an experienced PT, you're feeding back.
Experienced PT. Don't go to any gym and just find a PT on the board. You know, we have people in our gyms, Dan, for example, who physio with George. He does some PT clients. He'd be one that I would recommend over many others. But yeah, don't just find somebody who doesn't know about what might have happened with me, for example. I definitely recommend starting with somebody who knows what the issues around your knee are. And Dan again, for example, has worked with people with strokes in rehab. So finding somebody like that person will be able to take you on a journey to potentially put you into a group fitness class where you'll then be able to, have that support of the community forward. Yeah, Nicola loves Dan. She brings in bread.
I don't know if he'll take any more. I keep dumping loads on him, and
I will. We shouldn't call him a physio because George will tell us off. What's rehabilitator?
It's just lack of knowledge. It's if you go to a PT and the